Welcome to the Dr. Detective Series, a PhD true crime podcast. I'm the Dr. Detective Troy Looney. This is a show where we bring you critical assessment based on experience. We've talked about several different categories of true crime, different stories. Today, we're going to bring you something a little bit different. We're going to introduce some elements to discuss scams, financial fraud, and specifically celebrity scams. Working in financial fraud, there are a lot of cases that are introduced on a daily basis, whereas people are posing as celebrities, people are conducting scams with various cryptocurrency, various AI that's being used to pose as other individuals or take someone's identity. Specifically in this case, this is a case where AI was used combined with some Photoshop elements to scam a woman using Brad Pitt's identity. This is brought to you by the True Crime Talk channel as well, in collaboration with the Dr. Detective. In this situation, a lady was actually a French woman was scammed out of $850,000 by someone using a fake image of Brad Pitt. And as I mentioned, AI being introduced. We'll talk about the process of how it took place. We'll talk about how she was contacted. And this person posed as celebrity Brad Pitt needing some kind of assistance after his recent divorce from Angelina Jolie. So let's take a look at the video segment, and this will provide context to what we're going to discuss. And we'll talk about
Losing
additional.
nearly $1 million to a scammer pretending to be Brad Pitt. Well, this jaw-dropping story will leave you speechless. Meet Anne, a 53-year-old interior designer from France who thought she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt. Yes, the Brad Pitt. She recently shared her story on national TV, and it's now making waves worldwide. Anne's ordeal began when she received a message from a profile claiming to be Brad's mother. At first, she dismissed it as ridiculous, but Anne admitted she wasn't familiar with social media and didn't understand what was happening. Eventually, she started chatting with the fake Brad on WhatsApp. That's where things took a darker turn. The scammer spun a tale about Brad's bank accounts being frozen due to his divorce from Angelina Jolie. To make matters worse, he claimed he needed money for cancer treatment. Anne was so convinced that she wired nearly $850,000 to a Turkish bank account. The scammer even provided fake medical documents to seal the deal. But the red flags became impossible to ignore when Anne saw the real Brad Pitt at the Venice Film Festival with his girlfriend Inez de Ramon in September 2024. After the story went viral, Brad's team released a statement expressing sympathy for Anne while warning fans to stay vigilant. It's awful that scammers exploit the bond between fans and celebrities. This is a reminder not to respond to unsolicited messages, especially from actors who don't use social media. And let's be real, does Brad Pitt, with a reported net worth of $400 million, need random online donations? Absolutely not. Brad's fortune comes from decades in Hollywood, starring in blockbuster hits like Fight Club, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But he doesn't just rely on acting. He co-founded a successful production company, owns a profitable wine business, and has made savvy real estate investments. Not to mention, he's earned millions from endorsements over the years. Anne's story is a tough reminder. Scammers are getting smarter, even using AI to deceive. If a message feels too good or odd to be true, it likely is. Protect yourself and your wallet. As for Brad, he's thriving thanks to talent, hard work, and smart choices.
So yeah, that's terrible situation, terrible scenario. We're going to talk about specifics with how this took place, especially with this victim. Unfortunate occurrence. So Brad Pitt reacted to this situation, and this is not the only time his image and likeness had been used to defraud someone. But as he said in the video, it's awful that scammers take advantage of fans and try to make a strong connection, especially if you're a true fan of them, of their celebrity, of their following, of their body of work, essentially, of what they've done. Um, it's unfortunate, but no celebrity is ever going to contact you on social media. Again, there may be special platforms or VIP platforms, whereas they do make connections, but that should be for some kind of monetization or fees. Even with that being the case, please be careful. And in this case, we can't stress it enough. So, what happened with this victim? She was actually contacted through social media after she posted Instagram, and this is February of 2023. So she was contacted by someone who posed as Brad Pitt's mother. Again, so an unfortunate occurrence, but someone posing as his mom, saying that you would be a good person to maybe meet my son, um, maybe have a distance relationship, but maybe be supportive or just friend to talk with, right? So again, someone posing as his mother initially contacted this lady Ann, the victim, and said, "I need someone just like you." So again, befriending her through the motherly, um, I guess, context essentially, and then mom says, or the fake mom says, "I'm going to have Brad reach out to you, and maybe have some kind of communication." So therein lies the bait. Obviously, knowing and learning that Ann was a true fan of Mr. Pitt again. So at some point in time, the fake Brad Pitt um, has many discussions and wants her to send gifts or is going to send her luxury gifts. So again, the second part of the bait and hook there, right? They're going to send her essentially gifts, luxury gifts, and so forth, or maybe even monies. Sometimes they offer money, they offer gift cards, they offer some form of a way to build trust or build a rapport with the victim. And then if they apparently show trust towards the victim, that gains some kind of credibility essentially with victims. Again, it's a play on your emotions, it's manipulation, it's what's called social engineering, right? It's no different from someone that's works at a company and they're convinced to share trade secrets. Well, the scammers are convincing victims to share personal banking, finances, personal secrets. It may be something totally unrelated to the fraud or to monetization or monies, right? It could be something, just a secret that maybe you haven't shared with someone else. So, again, with the mother element here, again, Mr. Pitt or Brad befriended Anne, and it was said that he would send gifts, um, but there were fees required. When you hear fees required, and that can come in the form of gift cards, that can come in the form of cryptocurrency, that can be a wire that's requested, or sometimes even cash. I've worked cases, currently actively working cases where cash has been sent. Cash has even been picked up from the house. So these people are pretty cunning and pretty bold in their efforts. They will send a supposed courier or banker or business manager, attorney, or someone posing as all those individuals, someone posing as a banker, someone posing as an attorney, or posing as their representative, maybe their PR person that's going to be a liaison to connect you in person, or I've even known victims to take flights or go places to meet individuals or alleged individuals, and that turns out not to be the case. So, a couple things to be aware of what scammers say. Typically, they're going to tell you to either move your money to protect it, or they're going to ask for fees to gain your trust and encourage you. If you pay these fees, I can then send the monies I'm going to give you or the gifts. But you have to pay for customs fees. You have to pay for fees for delivery, right? Or gift cards, right? So I want you to go to an ATM, upload the cash into the ATM. That makes it easier from their perspective. So all of this is part of the scam. All of this is part of the manipulation that they're doing. So sometimes they, as I mentioned, they'll have to send a courier or someone to your home or a public place to pick up the cash from you or have you drop it off somewhere. These are two or three things that they say. Also, they may have you buy gold and give it to a courier. As I mentioned, cryptocurrency, we're going to get into some other discussions more in depth about cryptocurrency and how it works. If you're not really sure how that works, I'm going to go in depth in another series or episode where we talk about crypto scams specifically. But this can be a hybrid of all the above. It can be either cash they request, gift cards, which you should never buy, and give the numbers to anyone. That's a separate segment we'll talk about as well. And in this case, it was cash that was sent probably by various methods, various payment systems. So again, that is part of the scam. don't do it. It may seem to be true. They're going to gain your trust. These people are very crafty. They will wait it out. You may ask them, "Are you sure you're not scamming me?" I've had victims tell me that. They say, "Are you sure you're not scamming me?" The person will say, "No, check my credibility." And of course, with the advent of technology, with artificial intelligence being AI, they can take your likeness, they can take a snippet of your voice or recreate your voice and likeness to defraud or deceive someone. That was the case here with Brad Pitt and even his mother, just a simple image of his mother. These people also had images of Brad Pitt being in the hospital, right? So, what they're going to do is start out slow with discussions, conversation, right? How's your day? They're going to build that trust. And then, of course, it goes into them ramping up their requests, right? So, where they're going to need cash or they're going to pose as being sick, like in this case, they used AI to overlay Brad Pitt's image onto someone else's photo. So, they took pictures or screenshots, and there we have the fraud as well, showing Brad Pitt in the hospital in need of some kind of kidney cancer treatment, right? So they're going to play on your emotions. They're going to play into whatever they have to propose to you or what they want you to consider for them. Again, they used artificial intelligence to show several artificial intelligence or AI generated photographs of Brad Pitt in a hospital bed. They crafted and generated fake medical records, fake doctor records, and so forth. Multiple images shared. And of course, you're thinking, wow, they really trust me. They're just sharing this with me. They understand me. And they very well may play the part to gain your trust. And they seem very truthful. They seem believable. Again, sometimes it's just the allure of having that connection or that secret life that people fall into. And it's unfortunate. You can look up images on the internet. You may find unique images that are not the same as what they've sent to you. That's done intentionally to seem like it's very unique or just created for you or just shared with you. Like you're my friend, right? We're friends now. That can take on many different capacities or levels to the friendship. So, in that context, yeah, they will be very creative and crafty with their efforts. Again, this person said, I thought since they looked up the images on the internet, they didn't find these particular images, of course, because they're fraudulent, but they thought those were just for her, created and shared just for her. So let's talk about what is a romance bait scam. What exactly is that? We're going to talk about the process and how that works. So essentially, a romance scam or bait scam, a person meets you, whether it's social media or a different platform. They want you to start communicating with them, or they share a chat message or a chat platform. Typically, it could be WhatsApp, Telegram. There are hundreds of chats or options to communicate, Messenger, and so forth, or just regular phone, text, or email. So they're going to build that rapport. Maybe it turns to a romantic relationship or maybe just flirtatious, right? So they talk about what are your interests? What are your hobbies? They're going to garner your trust because they're going to be creative about what your interests are. What are your interests? What are your hobbies? Do you have investments essentially? What do you know about cryptocurrency or what do you know about gold or what do you think of the stock market? Some of the trending topics of the day, right? Once they've built that rapport, they're going to at some point introduce maybe a business plan they have. Maybe they want to share business or become a business partner with you. So again, it comes around eventually to some kind of I'm going to give you monies or gifts, or they may even send you gifts or a check or cash, right? To put in your account. Hey, you hold this for me and we'll figure out how we're going to do this business plan. Is it exciting? I'm sure it can be exciting, right? We've all been potential victims of scams, whether we know it or not. You know, the fake job platforms, the task oriented fake jobs. Again, I can run down a list of several, and I'm going to talk about those as they apply to this case. Several different types of scams I'm referring to. Again, once they gain your trust, monies are shared with you. They may, actually give you money or cash to hold. And then at some point, they're going to request that cash back, additional payments, or a partnership to share in the proceeds, which really don't exist. They're just trying to bait you, and sometimes something called pig butchering, based on the FBI's terminology, where they're baiting you and fattening you up for the larger takedown of assets. That is a separate episode as well. So some of the steps that they talk about, Brad Pitt talked about, like a fool, or the victim of Brad Pitt scams, like a fool, I paid. Every time they doubted, the person was able to, dissipate their doubts. They were able to reiterate facts or regain the trust, right? At some point, I'm sure Anne thought, this has got to be a scam. This is too good to be true, right? Brad Pitt's too good looking, whatever the case is, right? And he's interested in me. So, again, as the video talked about, some segues into the discussion, segues into how things evolved and some discoveries. But she thought it was real at the time because, again, these people do their homework. Unfortunately, everyone has a job, and they were able to persuade her to hand over $850,000, close to $1 million. And that's just what was reported. Again, this is very embarrassing. This is very traumatizing for victims. This is something that is not easy to report or easy to share with friends and family. Sometimes things never get reported. The sad part of this is that there are many victims out there, and maybe you're listening to this, that have not reported. Again, this is not your fault. This was manipulation. This was what's called social engineering. They've engineered a scam to take your assets. Please report as soon as possible, because the timing is of the essence. Timing in which you report can make the difference, especially if it's happening currently to you or actively happening. We want to know about it. Law enforcement wants to know. The FBI wants to know. There are portals where we can upload information. You can be anonymous and reporting, and at least put this on the radar of law enforcement, especially if you're actively being scammed or you're not quite sure. If you're not sure, make a call, please. Call in and report. So they were able to dupe her out of that amount of money. As I mentioned, the real Brad Pitt took a look at this, and by him using or them using images of his mother, his image and likeness also, he pretty much stated he doesn't use social media. So she thought it was fake at one point in time, but Anne continued to take part in the discussion. She continued to share assets and send monies. Again, the fake Brad Pitt's mother, Jane Pitt, reached out to her for several months. So again, these people are going to try. They're going to call back. They may try one type of scam. If that doesn't work, they'll try another type of scam. They're pretty creative, and they're very good at what they do, unfortunately. So they're going to continue to contact you. Even if you realize it's a scam, they may pose as some other identity or some other approach. So be careful. Again, they played on the sympathy and the emotions of the individual. They said that, Brad has an illness. He needs help. So again, if you're a friend, most friends help friends, right? But these people are not. They were not honest in their efforts. Let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and how this happens with AI. Essentially, artificial intelligence is based on what's called large language models. It's a generative technology. Essentially, it uses neural networks to compete with each other. And there's a generator and a discriminator, essentially. So not to go too high level, we're going to keep it basically simple. It basically is able to copy and learn from the data, from the technology, and it can create images and likenesses of just about any type of image or person. The generator creates an image of a fictitious person. The discriminator learns how to distinguish between facial features, and it synthesizes that into the image requested or the image comparison and contrasting. So again, just trying to break this down into layman's terms, but it is a technology that can be fascinating, but also scary at the same time. It's interesting how it always shows a robot or some type of um, android or some type of figure. I guess we're kind of accustomed to that with the tech, with the movies and media and so forth. But it is relevant because that is currently actively an issue, actively in development for some companies. So when we talk about generative AI, it's a different type of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating new content. So it's a subset of what's called machine learning, a different technology. It draws from techniques like deep learning, also another subset, reinforces that learning to generate what's called output. So all data essentially is based on inputs and outputs. It all comes back to zeros and ones essentially. So whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's voice, audio, whether it's pictures or text, or just computer language, right? This all breaks down to the binary base 2 system, zeros and ones. Again, to put it in layman's terms, just think of grade school, right? We learned the decimal system. We counted from 0 to 100, or we counted by tens, a base 10 system. So again, a different way to compare and contrast. We learned decimal in grade school, middle school, high school, college, and some advanced mathematics and so forth. The computers learn and they read data by zeros and ones, or what's called bits and bytes. Again, I'm getting more technical, but this is good and a good way to compare and contrast. So just think of the data and the communications, how it's being shared across the board. But generative AI is the next level of the subset. So essentially, it creates images. AI can create animation now, it can create videos, audio, even music. So again, all digital or digitized data breaks down to the zeros and the ones. Again, so let's move forward on to some other elements of artificial intelligence. So again, facial recognition is one part that was used in this scam, um, combined with some Photoshop elements, some digital layer manipulation software that can create creative software for the creatives in the podcast currently watching, and just those that are into media and so forth. So facial recognition, again, the artificial intelligence uses a picture. It's all based on data points, essentially. It's based on the data points, the different features of your face, or the face it's being considered, or it's considering or learning from. So this technology is adaptable, essentially. As it learns the data points, it's learning to differentiate between types of facial features, types of shapes, sizes, color. So again, think of context of maybe a cat or dog, right? Or apples and oranges, right? The AI is being taught. Actually, I say it's learning, but it's being taught by us. We're being prompted in conducting searches, but we enter prompts into the technology and it's learning as we're teaching it. And now it's also teaching itself to evolve. Again, no different with facial recognition. Think of when you unlock your cell phone, if you use a retinal scan or fingerprint unlock. That's all data that's being introduced into the, I won't say multiverse, but the digital universe, or the internet, essentially. It's being archived, it's being documented. So, again, with AI, it's going to identify different factors, different what's called digital artifacts, different data, and a facial signature. This is how it's able to learn and evolve. So essentially, the hospital pictures that were shared and used, these were created by artificial intelligence. They took someone's face and did an overlay, literally, of someone else's face to put Brad Pitt on that individual's face. So there's several different pictures here shared where he's in the hospital bed, he's in the hospital gowns, and it shows a doctor actually working on him in surgery at this bottom picture on the right here. Clearly, that is the position of the face. Some people can tell it's fake, but they may have distracted this victim by saying, "Hey, this is traumatizing. I really don't want to share pictures, but I'm going to just reach out to you because you're my friend, right?" So again, still building the rapport, but this is how that works. Think of the original picture versus what's called a deep fake, right? They'll take someone's photo, like the photo on the left here, and overlay the image like this shows Tom Cruise in this picture. But the original photo, very similar features and likeness, but the AI is able to overlay the image of Tom Cruise and same background, different ways to determine whether this is fake or not. But that looks like Tom Cruise to me as well. So Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, the likeness has been created. Same with this example here of President Obama, right? There's the original picture and a deep fake, essentially. So it recreated the picture from his likeness and then can manipulate sound, voice, audio with very close likeness, very almost accurate or believable likeness, contingent upon how it speaks and the phrases and words that are used. Pretty crafty, pretty scary also to consider. And then there's something called adaptive AI currently in development. It's the next level of artificial intelligence, whereas the machines, as I said, we're prompting them to learn, we're teaching them to learn, but they are also teaching themselves. They're adapting to everything we're introducing with them. So that is what's called adaptive AI, the next generation, where it improves its performance based on new data and the experiences. So the computers and the technology, the artificial intelligence is treating all this learning, all this data as an experience, right? Just like we do. We learn, we evolve, we learn not to touch the stove after we feel the heat, right? So the systems, this tech is learning how to differentiate between data and predefined parameters and the artifacts and everything else relevant to what takes place. So this is how this deception was introduced, along with some other human contact and elements with the discussions, and even just for them to listen to the victims, to listen to their issues, their problems. Sometimes we all just need someone to listen, and it's very easy to gain trust in that capacity. So some signs of a scam, things you want to look for here. Essentially, they may profess their love for you, or they may build that rapport. Maybe it's through humor. Something as simple as a laugh, right, goes a long way. Or digital hugs, as I'd say, right? They reach out, they send emojis, right, pictures and so forth. But at some point in time, they're going to ask for some kind of asset, some kind of monies or gift cards or something to share. It'll start small with a small amount, or maybe fees to pay for courier, or pay for international fees to send funds to you. So if you think you're getting a large check, and they may send an actual check to you, um, that's been taken from someone else's account, or maybe from their account. So they're going to build trust, ramp up to larger amounts and larger amounts, different payment systems and methods, right? So ultimately, they're working towards a goal of taking as much of your assets, as much of your money as they can. And they're going to introduce some kind of emergency or scare, or maybe they've been victimized or traumatized in some way. There's going to be some emergency that they introduce. So that's pretty much how it works. They build trust, create an emotional connection, which is manipulation, create some kind of crisis. And then ultimately, once you've shared monies, you've partnered with them, whether it's by business or whatever method, they're going to evade detection or disappear completely. So ultimately, they're going to, as what we say, ghost you, or leave, or um, disappear with your assets. Maybe there's a platform they had you log into that's gone. Again, keep track, keep notes of what's going on. If you're actively currently in this type of distance relationship, or it could be even in person, again, keep receipts, keep notes of what's happening. Again, pictures. If you're not sure if you're being scammed, share, contact law enforcement, contact someone that can verify or maybe vet these people, or monitor what's going on. Again, there's a reporting system. The FBI offers ic3.org, where you can actually upload to their portal. They may not contact you directly but they monitor the system. Again, that's a separate episode. We'll talk about some other data to consider as far as scams and romance scams specifically, which this was actually a romance scam introduced with Brad Pitt and this victim Anne and the fake Brad Pitt's mother. This is all part of the scam. There are several different role players in the process, several different people that take part in the process. As I mentioned, I've had victims that have been contacted or they've been groomed essentially over a period of time, and they'll send someone to the house to pick up cash from you, right? Because cryptocurrency is pretty volatile. Not everybody understands it. So they're going to meet you at your level of understanding and then consider whatever you're willing to give, even checks, cash, gift cards, gold, crypto, whatever the case is, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. They're going to use any kind of payment system they can to get your assets and gain your trust. So again, some of the data here in terms of romance scam by the numbers, right? So 24% of people say someone close to them's hurt or they've been arrested. They may pose that you're in trouble for some reason, or you've been caught up, or you've been, caught into their issues, or you've been reeled into their issues and their problems. So if you don't want to be in trouble, you're going to do as we say or what we ask. That is part of the scam also. Different levels of that. So again, could be someone that poses like they're in the military or they need help with some kind of important delivery, right? They're going to kind of bring you in like a secret spy or secret agent, like you're helping them. So again, don't fall for those traps. Many different ways. So we'll talk about that. As I mentioned, sometimes they pose as military personnel. They're going to send you pictures. They may have taken these pictures from different platforms, and they're going to pose as that Syrian soldier or someone overseas that just wants a pen pal, someone to talk to. Again, a lot of people are lonely. A lot of people need just a friend to communicate or just have a person to talk to on occasion, or that just checks on them back and forth. Again, that is part of a scam also. There's different ways to consider whether you're being scammed. Of course, people talk all the time. People chat all the time. People meet in various capacities. But just to be clear, if they ask for any kind of assets or want to give you something for nothing, most likely they're baiting you for a takedown or for some of your assets or monies and or your family's assets. So again, sometimes your occupation can be the reason you're targeted, your lifestyle, whatever the case is. So you could be someone that's just innocent that took part in it. So I mentioned the Syrian soldier. I've had cases I worked whereas the romance scam came by way of contact through social media, and the person connects with you, they chat with you, they build a rapport. I had a case whereas a gentleman thought he was talking with someone, a soldier overseas, and he was actually being sent cash money and uploading that to a Bitcoin ATM to convert it to crypto and send out. He actually was money laundering. He was what's called a money mule. He was part of the scam. So not only do these people manipulate victims, they deceive you, make you part of the scam, and now you could potentially be in trouble as well. But I'm going to say, please report. Most likely, if you're unaware, that doesn't excuse liability, but you have to understand they're very, very good at what they do. So in this situation, the gentleman had been sending cash on multiple occasions. Fortunately, cash was mailed. He was mailing the cash, and we were able to intercept one of those packages and seize the assets. But he was actually sending about $46,500 to someone, or going to receive that and then transfer that to the scammers. Of course, once we got involved, the person completely disappeared. The unfortunate thing is that the scammer sent flowers to his home. Um, he was married at the time. His wife got the flowers, thought they were for her. They were actually for him. When she found out, ultimately he got divorced behind that scam, behind this fake romance scam and fake image in person that didn't even exist. So essentially, he had been still talking with them. We recovered text messages by cell phone. There were about 12,000 text messages. So we're still going through that, still trying to identify the scammers, but we've seized the cash and still trying to locate the actual owner or owners. This could be a hybrid of several victims that this cash really belongs to. So again, um, please be careful. If you're part of this or being scammed currently, if you're not sure, contact your local agency, contact the FBI, please. Another case, whereas someone posed as Keanu Reeves. As I said, this is celebrity scam. This is not just about Brad Pitt. Someone posed as Keanu Reeves and contacted my victim online, communicating with them over several months, right? So over several months, they ultimately asked for money because Keanu, the fake Keanu Reeves, said his tractor broke down. He needed money for a tire, right? So I had to convince that person, very professionally. John Wick is not going to ask for money, right? John Wick and/or Neo from The Matrix and many other films that he's taken part in most likely wouldn't be asking for a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s from you. But that is to gain your trust. Maybe they sent money to that individual. We don't always get the true story, but when you do report to law enforcement, please tell us everything. There's pretty much nothing we haven't heard or we can't be prepared to hear. Again, this is just to help you. The more we know, the better we can help you, the faster we can help you. So ultimately, this person again posed as Keanu Reeves. And after the victim sent X amount of dollars, the person disappeared. They were heartbroken. But they spent months to groom this person, to gain their trust, and so forth. That is a part of the manipulation. As I said, some of the types of scams, there's a thing called catfishing where they're posing as someone similar to what happened with this Brad Pitt case. Advance fees, right? I'll send you money or send you a check. You keep so much from the check, send me the rest back. And if you deposit that into your bank, you very well may be liable for the monies because it made clear. I've had cases where people have been sent checks. The check cleared after 15 days or so, and they took the money out. They thought they were safe. Well, as it's reported, that check was it bounced, and that person was liable. It was a check for about $25,000. The bank was able to seize a portion of that and retain that. There was still $15,000 that was missing. So that person had a negative balance of $15,000, and they had to answer for that. So again, there's no free money. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy way to obtain assets. If it seems too good to be true, if someone contacts you on social media to say, hey, you want to make some quick money, run, block them, close it down, shut it down. Do not do it because you're going to be liable. That person will be gone. You're going to be on the hook and may be liable for some type of criminal prosecution. So again, different ways that people facilitate fraud and crimes. This is celebrity scams. We talked about the AI, the artificial intelligence, and some Photoshop elements were used to overlay pictures. So there's a hybrid myriad ways that people do that. We're going to talk about other scams. I wanted to share this with you all and make sure you are aware of what to pay attention to. Again, if you're not sure, reach out to law enforcement and ask. Just ask if you're not sure. If someone has approached you and you're thinking about sharing or giving assets or paying fees, please share. There's also no Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes that someone's going to contact you and just send you a check, right? So again, be careful of that as well. We'll talk about that in another episode. Again, this is Celebrity Scams. I want to thank you for watching. This is the Dr. Detective, a PhD, True Crime Podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Again, love as always from the Dr. Detective. Thank you.